So this panel's on innovation in the energy industry and deployment readiness. So let's just start with another really broad question, and we'll start with you, Luis. Across the solutions that are provided, or across all your sectors, what are the real bottlenecks that are slowing deployment today, and who could fix it?
It's the whole system that has to come together to solve some of the problems that I've seen. That doesn't mean that everybody has to solve everything for everyone. But overall, there definitely is an understanding, a short-sightedness by innovators and entrepreneurs as to how long it takes to get not just adoption, but people willing to use your widget, your idea, and so forth. They also want to put that in the context of maybe they're not going to be thinking about a unicorn exit, but so much of the playbook is set up, oh, this is where you're going to get your funding, you become a unicorn. That may not always fit for every technology. They don't have another playbook. So I would say the way I'm part of a group out there in this world, both of funders, which was ARPA-E, we're a funder. We're like one of the largest early energy innovation venture capitalists, but we just have our LPs are the taxpayers. Amongst those folks, we're really starting to think about what does it take to have an alternative to going the unicorn path? How do you build a business and a funding and the colors of money that will actually allow two things, allow you to develop a technology that utility could see enough confidence in to be able to deploy, or even how do you make sure that you grow your technology to a level that you could be acquired without, you don't want to take all that much money in order to be able to acquire it and make everybody happy that you took money from. And so it's really thinking about all of those paths, understanding how you're going to interface with those people, and that you have to you can't just be in the lab. If you're going to be acquired 3, 4, 5 years ago, you should have met that company already. Yes, maybe you have a great thing and you get to go into an auction, but most of the time those relationships from an industry person it takes that long for them to realize that there's real value there that they can leverage. So that's a big thing that I'm really front of mind and thinking about exit, but not necessarily always this unicorn exit, but thinking about what it takes to get your technology out and where you start with your germ of the idea, how you build something around it that can successfully carry your story.
So mapping some of those financial pathways and really helping people identify that there's more than one way to sort of be successful in this space.
Absolutely. The other thing is I'll throw this on top. I think that I know that there's a critical role that government plays in this. Like it's very difficult for the modern investor-owned utility, any public company to spend the amount on R&D that we have historically as a nation. So public money is important. I think there's a gap between the public money and maybe when venture capitalists want to come in. I think there's a real role, and we have to think about how we do philanthropy to help fill in some of those pieces. But yes, map the past. You're absolutely right, Zack.
Wonderful. Dev?
Yeah, so I resonate with a lot of opinions over here. One of the bottlenecks, in my opinion, that I encountered in Houston was the data silos were leading to a lot of fragmented decision making. And for example, a lot of discussions on this panel led to kind of build up to what I'm about to say, is that if you are building up an operation in somebody's backyard, you should know about it before they raise a voice against you to voice a protest. So community engagement definitely comes, but most importantly in a developer perspective, in planning, execution, lifecycle management, in these you need to have a unified view of the planet, and that's where we are trying to solve these problems. And in terms of entrepreneurship and innovations, one of the voices that I really resonate with is that for an entrepreneur, a lot of times the exit as well as the acquirement is definitely one of the pathways that they want to go forward with. But a lot of times I believe there are two kind of entrepreneurs. One is a missionary, other is a mercenary. So the one with the missionary have a proper mission and they want to make an impact. And that's where we, as well as in Texas, we come with this mission that, okay, oil and gas operators, energy providers, and energy stakeholders, they all come with this idea that, okay, we are doing stuff on the ground, but we want to increase our impact on the ground. And that's where we want to help them out with. So these are some of the anecdotes that I have.
Thank you. Marco, solutions and real bottlenecks.
Well, I think on the bottlenecks, you got to talk about how can you change some processes, procedures. Takes too long to get a permit. NEPA process. Depending on the project, could be 2 to 5 years. So things like that, you really have to look into it and come up with innovative ways to be able to do that. Same thing what we're just talking about is the community engagement. Also being able to get tools that you're gonna need. For example, like some sort of like e-permitting, that you can have everything in one site, and maybe GIS, have a data sharing to make sure you have up to date, the last information you can get immediately. Agencies. Sometimes you have to go through 3, 4, 5 different agencies that you have to go through to the process, get them to communicate. Get them to communicate and have a some sort of a standardized process. 1 to 2 years would be good. Not 5 or 10. And be able to have that. It's the timelines, that we're talking about, and that costs money. If you prolong all these permitting processes, all these processes that you have to follow, it costs money. And the project that was $1 billion today, at the end of the day, it ends up with like 6-10 billion, and inflation. The more you wait, the more money you have to spend. So, yeah.
Gabriel?
Yeah, so when we talk about the solution, and I appreciate everybody's comments here because, I started the conversation with supply chain challenges, right? Constraint that we all face. When we look at solutions and projects for our clients, kind of break it down to 3 Ps. So people, parts, and processes. We've mentioned permitting. That's a piece of it. But I talked about the parts piece, the supply chain piece, but we also have to talk about people. So I don't want to steal the thunder from the following panels because they're going to talk about workforce development. But I think one of the things that has been true of all these infrastructure projects and data center projects that are going across the country is that there's not enough of those skilled trades to go around, right? And when data center clients are paying, 2-3x per diem to make their site and their projects more attractive, it brings a challenge then to the other projects that are also trying to get off the ground in nearby areas. So whether you're trying to put poles and wires, or whether you're trying to build a data center, or whether you're trying to build a new gas asset, or a new solar farm, or a battery storage project, you're running into that same constraint of people. The supply chain piece I think will always be there until we onshore manufacturing capability in the U.S. and build a capacity to build some of this critical components that we're missing, right? The high voltage transformers, the breakers, all that stuff will come through. But you're not going to be able to go and address, at least on the nuclear side, right, for any new SMRs or traditional light water plants, you're not going to be able to address those challenges without true manufacturing capability, not only for large forgings, but also for fuel, right? Can't run the plants if you don't have fuel. And because we are dependent on these, international resource hubs for those special materials, it makes that a challenge. So I think it resonates with all of us that, the energy industry is a national security concern, and it's something that we have to address, given the geopolitical challenges that we've seen lately. But you're not going to be able to get to new solutions without addressing those 3 Ps, right? People, process, and parts.
Just adding on workforce development that you mentioned, we need to prepare for the future energy experts. You know, we got to start early. We have programs that we start at middle and high school, you know, and you've been involved with our Engineers Week program. We hosted 1,500 middle and high school students and teaching them about energy and teaching them about engineering and STEM. And that's what we have to do early at the early age to make sure that they know what's available, you know, what kind of options are out there. And that feeds the workforce development. And the other thing that we need to consider is, you know, everybody wants to do all these big projects, but where's the money, right? So you kind of have to start looking into how you're going to fund these projects. I mean, there's a lot of international funding that could be, you know, tap into, and we have to start really thinking about on the global level.